Okay.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. First, let me thank all of you for attending who I have not met or spoken to. My name is Christy Saul, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing for URL's Health Plan Options Specialty Products Division. And I'm niche products or weird kind of products like limited benefit guaranteed as SHAP plans, group voluntary plans, and now I've kind of taken the self-funding under my wing as well, and we will also be offering all lines except for property and casualty. We've been in business for 26 years, and we are located in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. A little history lesson or geographical lesson. We are the capital, and we're kind of in between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. That being said, we do licenses here at URL, which include individual health, group health. They'll run the quotes for you, and they'll keep you posted 3 times weekly on case status. And if for some reason your case is rejected or declined, which won't be happening with all other carriers for you. We also learn how to cross-sell in our different departments. Many of our agents do write business in every department at URL. And again, we're here to help you diversify your product portfolio. With all the still uncertainty of Obamacare, I know at least our health agents, have seen a real hit on their commissions, buy or die. So if you're not writing anything with URL, I do urge you to give it back to our agents. For those of you who are local to Central Pennsylvania, you may not know that we do have a suite at Metro Park. And again, every bit of business that you do with URL, be it, and if you're looking at my screen right now, there was a shot of our last event. What else? On the call with me today, well, I did want to tell you first, you're all muted because there's a lot of feedback. So there is an area on the bottom right of your screen where you can type in a question. If you raised your little hand, I can unmute you. So we will take all the questions that you have at the end of the presentation. I did want to show you, again, this is our website. I'm not going to go through the entire website, but it shows you all of our different divisions across here. It'll show you, any training event quoting tool. So for every division you go to. And you're probably tired of hearing me talk. So on the call with me today are Susan Schulman, who is president of Main Street Insurance Brokers and employee benefits specialist who supports the agent community in Florida with workplace products. And she and I go way back, and we've had many discussions, and I just think it makes great sense for URL to bring the same products to the table, which includes self-funding and gap plans. And we also have Stephen Parrish, who is the National Sales Director for Companion Life, who is going to do his presentation on the group gap plan after Susan.
And welcome to the era of healthcare reform, where truly challenges bring opportunity. It's hard to say sometimes because a lot of us have negative feelings about this opportunity, but it is there. And I'm here today to talk about some of the opportunities at hand, to bring information to you on our success with self-funded plans and with gap insurance. I'll present these over the next 30 minutes. I'll be talking about self-funded, and then I'm going to turn it over, as you just heard, to Stephen Parrish, who will be talking about the gap plans. The main reason I am so excited about this presentation is that a couple of months ago I was at my high school reunion, which is up in Pittsburgh, even though I've lived in Florida since college. And I was talking to some insurance agents up there, and came to find out, and was a little bit surprised, that most of them have never quoted a gap plan and have never heard of gap insurance. Also never really knew much about self-funded programs, and most of them said, we write Blue Cross and that's all we do. So here we are talking about something different, and you may be the first kid on the block with some of these new ideas and new concepts. I strongly believe that the days of putting all your clients with a traditional carrier with low deductibles is truly changing as we speak. 4 years ago in Florida, we started to fund gap insurance with $2,500 on the average out-of-pocket medical plan. And for the past 2 years, it's gone up to about $5,000 deductible out-of-pocket plans. And this year, we've been doing a lot with $10,000 deductibles. Our prices in Florida are just so high, and it's getting worse as Obamacare presents itself. A note on the group gap plans, and then I will move forward onto the self-funded. FYI, there are good gaps and there are bad gaps, and some look like gap plans but are only old indemnity type plans underwritten with pre-X, and they pay specific amounts without a smooth blending with the medical. And Stephen's going to tell you more about it. And what I promise you is that what he will be presenting is the very, very best of gap plans, bar none. If you're one of those agents who wants to explore the benefit of self-funded plans, gap insurance plan, today this is our focus. Why is self-funded an opportunity? The main reason is that it's not required by reform law to use community rating, so that a self-funded plan can create the rates based on the risk of the group. What type of group benefits from self-funding? Obviously, younger groups, because with community rating, the younger people are all going to pay much higher premiums. And healthier, because we look at the health of the groups in determining what the rates are. Groups with 15 or more participating employees are now eligible for self-funding. It used to be that only really large accounts went self-funded, groups with 500, 1,000 people, and now this is being brought down to the small business person. In most cases, the rates will be less expensive than traditional insurance, again, if we're looking at younger groups and healthier groups. Let's explore the advantages. I got this map the other day and was really quite surprised at what I saw, and I wanted to share this with you. How much will Obamacare raise your health insurance premium? But you can see up in the Northeast, in states like New York, it's actually going to lower their premium, because I think New York's insurance rates are about the highest anywhere. Pennsylvania and Florida are very similar. The rates will go up about 27, 28%. And then I see, and some of you are probably on the call from Ohio, 81% rate increases. That's like unbelievable. And, I don't have to read it all. You can see it right there. California, 62%. So I'm just going to move on to the next screen. And if you want a copy of that, all of this is available, so you just let us know. Model for health in an era of reform. All of our plans are PPO plans. I don't know how much you do with HMOs. I know in Florida, HMOs are pretty much the mainstay of our health insurance, so offering PPO plans only has been a real plus. We can choose up to 4 options for each group. So you can have a low option, a medium option, and a high option. I personally use the high options because, again, I market this with gap insurance, and there's a very important reason for that I'm going to go into in a minute. We use a national PPO provider network, one of the largest in the country. And smart funding is kind of the key word to what we do. Smart funding, as a definition, is an innovative, low-cost approach to financing health care for employer groups, an affordable option that provides the financial protection of traditional health plans, plus the potential to save significant claims dollars. And when I explain self-funding, I usually talk about 3 buckets of money. That's what makes up the cost of the self-funded plan. The first bucket of money is the administration fees, paying those that pay, the TPA that handles the administration, that pays the claims, et cetera, the commissions, all of the fixed administration costs. And the second bucket of money is the stop-loss insurance costs, because with every self-funded plan comes actual insurance that insures a specific and an aggregate amount so that the risk to the employer is kept down to a minimum. And the third bucket of money is the bucket that is the claims that are actually paid by the employer underneath the stop-loss amount. What's unique about this, and I'll show you on the next screen, is that with fully insured plans, the premium is 100% non-refundable premium. When you get into self-funded, the fixed costs are your administration costs and your stop-loss premiums, but the expected claims are, we never know where those are going to be. We can anticipate what they are, but hopefully we won't use that whole bucket of money. If we exceed that bucket of money, the employer is not obligated or will receive you know, a bill to pay any of the excess. The premiums are funded to the max, and by that I mean what they pay every month for their employees is the maximum that they're expected to pay. However, here's the good news. At the end of the year, we look at the amount of the claims that have been paid out. And let's say the claims bucket is $100,000 a year for the group as a whole. And let's say they've only paid out $50,000 in claims. The other $50,000 belongs back to the employer or to the group, which is fabulous because nobody's going to give you a refund on a traditional plan, right? So that's the good news, and that's one of the reasons why I like to use a higher deductible and put a gap plan in, because the gap is going to pay for all the small claims. So if you think about it, at the end of the year, there really should be money left for the employer, at least hopefully. And here's a look at self-funding on a simplified basis, because I know some of you are not knowledgeable in this type of insurance. So let's just kind of put it in some type of perspective. Employers pay a fixed monthly amount that covers medical and RX claims, expected in aggregate corridor, stop-loss insurance premiums, plan administrative expenses, and access to national and regional networks. And over the plan year, the administrator, the TPA, pays the claims out of an account set up for the plan. That's your third bucket of money. And at the end of the run-out period, all unused funds are the plans to keep. Unlike other traditional health plans, employers pay only for the health care their group consumes. Unlike health care reform, where everybody's paying for everybody. Specific and aggregate stop-loss insurance is the protection for the employer. When it reaches a certain point, the stop-loss insurance kicks in. This ensures the employer will not have to pay more than the monthly fixed amount. I know I'm going kind of fast, and we will have time for questions as we progress. So just bear with me. Next, I've put up the 7 plans that we do offer, and I started with the high-end plans, my 2 favorite plans, which are the Plus plan and the Access plan. And if you look at that, you will see that the Plus plan and the Access plan, one has a $5,000 individual deductible, and the other has a $10,000. After the deductible, 100% in-network is paid, and 70% out-of-network is paid. The plan itself has some features that are paid first dollar, and those include a primary care office visit at $20, and this is true in all the plans except for the HDHP plans. $20 copayment for a primary doctor visit. In Florida, our primary doctor visits are $35 and $40. I'm not sure if yours are that high wherever you may be, but that's what ours are here. Specialist is $40 in network. Ours are $60 and $65, sometimes $70 per visit. The other first dollar benefit that's paid is for urgent care, $40, no deductible, straight up, first dollar coverage. We include a $35 eye exam every 2 years, and basic lab work and x-rays are $20 in network. Colonoscopy, if it's other than routine well care, because wellness is paid at 100%, is a $200 copay. Wellness benefits are all paid at 100%. In addition to the 2 deductibles for primary and specialist, we have also included in our self-funded what's called telemedicine, or consult a doc at no additional cost. And this is a very interesting concept, and for those of you that don't know about it, because I know URL does offer it on an individual basis, this is packaged with the GAP plan. I'm sorry, with the self-funded plan. A telemedicine plan is an on-demand healthcare solution that provides members with medical care over the phone or on a video 24/7 from anywhere. A physician at his discretion will often call in a script to a local pharmacy. And I think this is the most fabulous thing that's been offered in healthcare for a very long time. I can speak about it with personal information. My daughter was over my house, and I had covered her and her family on a telemedicine plan, and the baby was pulling at his ears, running a fever, and it was a Saturday night naturally. Well, if she had called her pediatrician, they would have sent her to an urgent care center to sit there for hours and whatever. The telemedicine doctor called her back within 12 minutes, which just blew me away. I just thought that was so fabulous. And she explained to him that the baby had had repeated ear infections and what the physician normally would prescribe. And he called in a prescription. She picked it up from Walgreens within, I would say, within an hour she had the medication. And this was on a Saturday night. It was awesome. So I can speak with assurance on this that employees will absolutely love this. It keeps them at work a lot of times because a woman could, for example, have a bladder infection and want to leave work, tell her boss that she needs to go sit in her primary doctor's office to wait for a script for her bladder infection, where she could be calling the teledoc physician and having him call in a script and not really having to leave work for the day. Really awesome.
Susan, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say that I personally have the teledoc option, because we do sell it individually, and I've probably used it twice for myself, twice for my daughter, and every single time I get a phone call within 10 minutes, and the script is called in within 15 minutes. And
It's awesome.
I live half an hour from where I live, so for me to go get my daughter, and take her out of school and then miss half a day of work, it's awesome. So sorry to interrupt, but I just want to give my 2 cents on that as well.
So even if you don't work with the self-funded plan on a particular case, you can include this on a standalone basis through URL's marketing of this product. Let me flip this. Hang on for a second, it's not moving the screen. It stopped working. Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Where's Stephen? He's the tech guru.
I'm right here. I don't know if I can help. What are you trying to do, Susan?
Just move to the next screen, and it's not moving.
What if you click just enter on your?
That's what
No,
I've been doing.
I think you need to click on your PowerPoint slideshow at the bottom on the taskbar,
Okay.
and then you should be able to move from screen to screen now.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Oh, he's such a genius.
Thank you.
This page shows the lower deductible programs. We do have a $500 individual deductible, and then we have $1,000 and $2,500. Of course, the premiums are higher. Like I said, I prefer to use the gap insurance and keep the claims clean for obvious reasons that we discussed a few minutes ago. But those programs are available, and sometimes, they might want to make those programs available for the executives or their key people. I don't know why when the gap plan would pay it all, but employers sometimes do want to do that. So we do have those 7 plans that are available. Okay, I'm going to show you an example here of a self-funded plan that we recently sold. This was located in Tampa, Florida. I have to tell you, when I quote this, I usually add 10% onto the premium, which I have done here, because I like to, when we haven't underwritten it up front, and there could be some claims issues, I like to add 10% as kind of a way that, if we find out some things aren't really great about the group, we've already added in some extra premium, so it could be lower, and it would also be lower, the rate would also be lower up in Pennsylvania than it is in Tampa. So bear with me, this is a Tampa rate. The rates in Pennsylvania, I would guess, and the other states that you're in, would probably be 15–20% lower. The first case that I'm showing you here has a $10,000 deductible. It pays 100% after the $10,000 deductible. As you can see, the employee rate, and it's in red, is $284.15. Let's just talk about the employees. It makes it a lot easier. That's a great rate in the Tampa area for a $10,000 deductible. And like I said, up in your area, it would probably be lower than that. If you add a gap plan into this, you're probably looking at about $50, $60 a month on top of that, which would pay the full $10,000 in the hospital and would pay 70% of that out of the hospital on outpatient. So the maximum exposure would potentially be $3,000 if they had a lot of outpatient. But typically, once a person gets to, a couple thousand in outpatient benefits, they end up in the hospital. So it makes for a great package. And the $10,000 really, with the gap, is not ultimately a $10,000 deductible. The second one is a $5,000 deductible, 100%. And that rate came out to $314 a month per employee. I'm going back to the $10,000 again, and I want to show you how these premiums are broken down by the 3 buckets of money. If you look at the top portion, it says aggregate stop loss, PPO services, TPA fees, marketing expenses, etc. And it shows the total fixed cost, and I hope everyone can follow. I know the print's a little bit small, is $155.72 for the fixed cost. The anticipated claims, and that's your third bucket of money, is $102.75, and then there's another $25.69, and this is all per employee on a monthly basis. That is called the aggregate corridor, and that's kind of just a little bit of leeway in the figures that they're anticipating. So there's about $128 a month that goes into that third bucket of money to pay the claims. And ultimately, that breaks down to the total group putting away about $125,000 of money into bucket 3. So again, and I got to stress this because this is the great part about this, is that there's $125,000 of that premium in a third bucket that if the claims are not used, that money comes back to the employer. So I think I'm at the end of my screens on the self-funded. I know there's a lot to be learned on this. We're here to help you. We're here to help you quote the cases, sell the cases, and enroll the cases. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
Do you want to,
maybe yeah.
Susan, you want to take the questions that I have so far, since this is kind of fresh?
Yeah, I can do that. I was going to leave them until the end, but we can do that.
They were asking about, one question is about state availability, and I think, well, I'll let you answer because I know I had asked the same question this week, but I don't want to give them bad information.
Okay, this is available in almost every state. New York would be one that it is not available. There's only about 3 or 4 states that are not available. But, and some of the states may have laws that require a minimum of 50 people, even though in Florida and Pennsylvania it's down to 15. But that's on a state-specific basis, and you would have to, give us a call and check out wherever you are to get those specifics.
Okay. Next question is, do these plans meet the 60% AV testing? And I think what they're asking is, does it comply with, say, a bronze plan under Obamacare? But go ahead, Susan. I'll let you.
They really haven't determined yet how that's going to work. Right now, we're working on plans. We're trying to move everyone that has a January 1st effective date, at least that's what we're doing here in Florida, to be enrolled in November and December. Why? Because we don't want to leave them to be the guinea pigs January 1. And since a lot of these things remain unanswered, and that being one of them, if we have to comply with it, they will comply with it. But everybody's kind of vacillating, as you know, back and forth over how things are going to happen. So one thing I can encourage you to do is if you have a group that enrolls January 1, try and enroll them for December so we don't have to worry about things like that for a year.
Okay, next question is, with regards to telemedicine, is there a concern about legal issues if a teledoc is not able to see the patient and issues a prescription over the phone that causes more harm to the patient?
Well, first of all, when we talk about a prescription, we're talking about things for relatively minor issues, ear infections, the flu, things
Right.
like that. If somebody calls and says they have they hurt their back and they need some Percocets, it's not going to happen.
Right, and I know
if they say they have chest pains, they're going to send them to the emergency room.
Yeah, I think it's more for, everyday things like, sinus infection, UTI, ear infection, those type of things. And I know when I at least signed up for mine, I had to register and I had to go in and put down, I guess, people could lie, but again, they're not going to give them, harming medication, but they already have your basic health history in there because you have to complete that before, you call for a consult. So there is some of that going on.
Right.
Yeah. Next question is there some $5.25 reinsurance charge per head count per month? Is that required under this?
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
What $5.25 charge are we talking about? If it's something that has to do with Obamacare, I would have to check that out. I don't know. Right now it is not.
Okay. Oh, he said the estimated health insurance and reinsurance fee required effective 1/1 of 14?
We haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Okay.
That's all. The only way I can answer that. I'm
okay.
sorry.
Okay. Another question is, I don't understand the gap coverage and how that works with the proposal numbers you are showing. How much does the gap coverage cost also? I guess.
Okay. I'm going to defer that, and I think a lot of your questions on that will be answered after Stephen gives his presentation.
Okay. And how do we go about getting a quote, and what information is needed?
Actually, you can, URL will have all that information and can work with you on getting a quote. Basically, if it's a very small group, I would recommend that you ask them some very serious questions about the health of the people that work for them. Because if you have 15 people and one of them is going through cancer therapy, this is not for them. If you have 100 people and someone's going through chemo, then it becomes a different ball game, because we need to look at the amount of premium we're generating and the risk with self-funded. Right. So that's the first thing that I would kind of talk to the HR people. They don't always know. In a smaller business, they usually know who's sick and who's not sick. But the larger a case gets, the more that becomes a unknown factor. But we can also handle more risk with a larger account. But to get a quote, we would need the normal census. We want to know what company they have, what the benefits are, if you have the renewal rates, because we like to be able to know how we stand when we come up with the quote. If we do a manual quote, we're going to quote it based on everybody being fairly healthy. We don't expect everybody to be 100%. There's a lot of nobody's perfect. Everybody has some type of chronic thing. They have some high blood pressure. They have some diabetes. We expect those things. What we want to know about is the serious stuff. So any of that you can put on the table is going to help a lot in getting the quote. It's all going to be found out in the end anyhow, because it's going to be underwritten.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. But, I mean, you all received the webinar invite, so feel free to contact me. You might have questions after the webinar is over. And if I don't know the answer, I'll be calling Susan, because this is relatively new to us as well. But, well, I understand the self-funding concept, but this is the first real self-funding product type that we're actually rolling out, so I know it's a new concept to a lot of people. All right, I'm going to change the presenter now, see if I can do this, to Stephen. And Stephen, you should receive something to become the presenter in a minute.
Okay. All right, show my screen. Okay. All right, Christy, Susan, can you guys see my screen so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I'm Stephen Parrish. I'm the Marketing and Sales Director for the Crescent Medical Bridge Program, which is underwritten by Companion Life. Since Companion is here, we're all here in South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina is our headquarters, and we are A-plus company, fully owned subsidiaries of Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. So we've got a pretty nice backing there, and our GAP plan is what we're going to be talking about today, and it has really taken off. So I wanted to give one quick note. We see this type of self-funded product more and more and more. It is becoming very, very popular, what Susan just got done talking about. Most people anticipate that you're going to see the majority of groups under 50 lives start to move to a plan like that come 2014. So be on the lookout for that, because that is definitely the way of the future. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into to the gap, okay? So let's just do a recap here of where health insurance premiums have been. Okay, so going back to 1999, you can see the average cost for a family of 4 was about $5,800 a year. And I know we all wish that it was still that much, but unfortunately, as we know, it's gone up like almost 200% since then. I'm sure we're up closer to $20,000 now. Okay, so the problem is it's continuing to go up and it's not slowing down. So what do you do? Okay, so there's 3 ways that you can respond to this, and I always tell people there's always 3 approaches. The first one is not the best. I call it the ostrich in the sand approach. Kind of trench down, hope for the best, just kind of stick your head in the sand and pretend that it's not going on. This is kind of the way out. If you're just saying, you know what, I'm going to hang them up, that's your approach. Hopefully none of you are that way. Okay, the second one is to cost shift. Okay, so what you're doing is your groups get their renewals in, and sure enough, they got a 20% bump, and you're thinking, oh gosh, what do I do? So you go to your employer and you show them a bunch of different spreadsheet plans, and you say, well, if you do this copay or you move this contribution or deductible here, well, all you're really doing there is cost shifting. So you're just moving costs around. You're not actually fixing the problem. So the third way is to think outside of the box. Okay, so you're going to use a different strategy. Our program, the GAP program, generally guarantees some savings, and in most cases we improve benefits. But GAP's not the only way to do this. Okay, so I'm not going to. There's plenty of ways to think outside the box. You probably are doing some of these: HSAs, HRAs, self-funding, like we just talked about, worksite benefits, and then GAP is just another form of that. Okay, so this is the concept. Okay, so you take a high deductible plan, usually $3,500 or higher. Obviously, the higher you go, the better. We're going to run into a few problems with that, with healthcare reform going to those $10,000 deductibles, but you can still use the $5,000 or even $6,000 deductible post-2014 if you're using one of these self-funded plans. So keep that in mind. That's going to be another benefit. But here's the concept. You're using two plans to create one. Okay, and the goal is that with these, going to the high deductible plan, you're going to have enough savings to pay for the GAP plan and still have a bunch left over. And on average, we save people about $1,000 an employee. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'll show you a little bit more on that later. All right, so I always ask people, what do you think matters most to the employee? Okay, now everybody always wants to know, what are my copays, what's my drug plan, what's my total out-of-pocket exposure? That's your three main things. And I think there's a good reason for that. There's statistics that say that over 50% of Americans make less than $25,000 a year. Okay, so if you're somebody that's making $25,000 a year, you don't have the things that matters most to you are the things that cost the less. You got to find the things that are the cheapest. So these copays and things are affordable. Okay, so even a $1,000 deductible is probably unattainable for somebody that doesn't have $100 in their bank account. And that's going to be a problem in 2014 when you've got $6,400 in out-of-pocket exposure. So what we're really doing here with these GAP plans, since they're first-dollar benefits, we're giving people what they need. We're giving them peace of mind. So that same employee that's only making $25,000 a year can go and get an MRI on an old knee injury that their knee's been hurting them, and the GAP plan is going to pay that for them. Okay, and this way, that MRI, they go ahead and find something, they get a simple procedure done. It doesn't turn into a huge inpatient procedure later that drives up medical utilization. So the idea is with this first-dollar coverage, we're going to take you guys back. You're going to be able to take your clients back to the days when you had a $0 deductible. And we're going to do that for the same price or less than what they're paying now. And I will get into one other thing real quick. I know some people get real weird when you start talking about $0 deductibles and upfront first-dollar coverage. It scares some people. If you're one of those people that scares, we have the ability to build in a $250 or a $500 deductible in front of our GAP plan. So instead of all first-dollar coverage, you're going to give them a $500 or a $250 deductible, which I think all of your groups would love to do if they could go back to it for no difference in price. All right, so let's keep going here. So this is not a new concept, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Medicare sub-market and how all that's going. Well, seniors have been utilizing Medigap plans now for years, and if anybody knows anything about benefits, it's seniors. Okay, so what typically works is, you've got your B and your D and your F and everything, and the way they work together, the seniors love it. And so they have multiple plans all working together as one, and that's the idea of GAPs, the same thing. Okay, so let's do a brief demonstration of how it works. Okay, so every employee gets a hard plastic ID card. So what we're doing is we're going from a one-card system to a two-card. So they got their major medical card, and then we're going to give them a GAP card, or a secondary card. That's what I like to call it. So the provider files the claim primary, and then the provider files our claim secondary. And we actually pay off the EOB, so we want to make sure we get those network discounts in there. But the provider does all the work. I want to keep that in mind. In other GAP plans and in other arenas, worksite, you've got your employee having to go through this hard filing process. That's not how we do it. We try to make it to coordinate as best as possible so that the provider files everything and we take care of everything with the provider. All the employee has to do is show both cards and go home, and that is a significant advantage that we have. The biggest advantage that we have over our competition is that if there's something that's approved by the major medical, but it's going to be subject to the deductible, we pay it. No ifs, ands, or buts, okay? So the fact that we don't have the exclusions that other people do is a big advantage. Now, I hope you guys can see this. It's kind of small, but what basically this is showing you is that the only things we don't cover is we don't cover office visits and prescription drugs. Okay, so anything that shows up on your EOB, whether it's durable medical equipment, whether it's a surgery, whether it's a sleep study, whether it's an allergy test, whatever it may be, if it's on the EOB, we're going to cover it. It works just like like an HRA, like a first-dollar HRA. That's what this is. Okay, so it's a phenomenal way to help out. And the things that I highlighted in yellow are some of the things that our competition excludes. Okay, so a lot of them don't cover physical therapy. A lot of them don't cover a surgery in the office. So if you had to get a mole removed in the office, they wouldn't cover it. But we cover all of that stuff, and that has really helped us give us an advantage over our competition. And the other thing it does is it simplifies the explanation process for your client. So if you had to sit down in an appointment and go through, okay, well, it doesn't cover this, but it does cover this, you've already lost them. So the way we do it is say, hey, it covers everything except your office visit copay and your prescription drugs. You still need your copay and you still need your drug copay. But other than that, it's all covered. And some of you may notice that the mental health and substance abuse says pending. Well, that's only in certain states. Pennsylvania is approved for mental health and substance abuse. Just wanted to give you a heads up there. All right, moving on. Here's a sample EOB, and this is the part that the employees love. Okay, so we have an extremely high satisfaction rating with our employees because, for the first time in forever, they're actually getting an EOB in the mail that says amount you owe is 0. So if you look on the right side of the screen, halfway up there with the little red dot, you'll notice that it says amount you owe to provider is $0. When's the last time you got something that said you didn't owe anything? So actually what this claim was, it was 2 x-rays that were done. And the total bill, the billed amount looks like it was $330 here. And so normally that bill would go to the employee, but we paid that bill on the employee's behalf. That is where you get employees start talking about it at work. They're walking by and say, look, man, I went to the doctor the other day, had a bunch of x-rays done, I didn't have to pay a thing. So now they think their employer is providing the Rolls-Royce, medical plan. They're thinking they got the benefits like FedEx does, which creates really good employee workplace morale. So this is probably the strongest part is how it actually affects the employees, because for the first time in a long time, they can actually pay their medical bills. All right, let's move on here. I just want to show you the basic plan design. Okay, it's 2 buckets of money. Okay, so there's 2 separate buckets of money. I just want everybody to keep that in mind here. So your first bucket is anything that happens in the hospital. Okay, so if you're in the hospital, that's one bucket. And we'll just use, in this example, $5,000 of inpatient benefit. Okay, so the second bucket would obviously be outpatient. Now, your outpatient is limited to 70% of whatever this inpatient benefit is. In this example, if you have a $5,000 inpatient benefit, the max outpatient benefit you could have would be $3,500. But again, this is 2 separate buckets of money. It almost works like a little debit card, because that little hard plastic ID card, now, they've got to file it, but they've got, a bucket of money, and they can pull from it until it's empty. Okay, so it's 2 buckets of money. Just want to keep driving that home. All right, now let's just paint this picture. I want to just drive this point home. The plan on the left, you'll see current plan, it just shows you a standard $1,500 deductible plan. Okay, in that scenario, the employee pays first. That's why it's on the bottom. The employee pays their deductible first. After that, major medical kicks in, right? Well, on the plan on the right, let's assume that we've gone to a $5,000 deductible and we've then put a gap plan. Well, the plan on the right, if you're in the hospital, we pay the deductible for you, no ifs, ands, or buts. If it's anything out of the hospital, we'll pay the first $3,500, and after that, then you might have to pay $1,500 on the back end. We're flipping the medical plan upside down here, and that is something that nobody's been able to do in a long time. Okay. The good news is, too, as you guys know, 86% of all claims are less than $5,000. So if you give somebody $3,500 of upfront first dollar benefit, that's going to go a long way, and it's going to cover just about everybody's medical expenses. I know it would cover mine. Okay, now let's look at one more. This is what you're going to get on each proposal. We actually have developed our proposals now to show you the current plan design right next to what we're proposing. And I'll tell you, it's a real easy sale, and I'll just walk you through it. Okay, so the plan on the left, this was in Michigan actually. So they had a $1,500 Anthem plan, 80/20, and they had primary copay and pretty standard. You guys know the deal there. Well, we suggested they move to a $5,000 plan. So look what happens if you do that, okay? Keep your copays. We were able to keep your copays in this example, but if you have an X-ray in the office, Gap pays it for you, okay? But over here, current, you got to pay that deductible and coinsurance, so that's on the employee. Over here, we're paying that for them. Same thing with a blood test. If you go into the doctor with your current plan, you got to pay your deductible. You got to pay those lab tests, EKG. But over here, we're going to pay that for you. Just scroll on down a little bit. Same thing. Inpatient services, you got your deductible and coinsurance. We pay it for you. Okay. Outpatient, same thing. Gap pays, Gap pays, Gap pays. So the question I always ask, and then, when I'm sitting in an enrollment meeting or an appointment, I say, Mr. Employer, of these two plans, which one would you rather have? Let's just assume they cost the exact same. And almost every time they say, shoot, I'd rather have that plan on the right where they're going to pay that money for me, that upfront cash. That's what I want. Well, what then I tell people, I say, well, you picked the right plan, obviously, but the good news is that plan costs a whole lot less than the plan on the left. And that's what I'm going to show you here. Okay, so this is the exact same case that we just looked at. This is an actual case we did 2 years ago. Okay, so if you look, the plan on this top plan, they came in, they were at $390 for the single. Okay, then at renewal, they got a pretty big bump, almost up to $450. Okay, you can see that in the middle column there. Well, we noticed that the Anthem 5000 plan, that $5,000 double, was only $330. Just like Susan showed you in the self-funded, those higher deductible plans cost a lot less. So if we use that, we paired a Gap plan, which cost $80. Okay, so that plus the Gap, which was $80, equals $412. You're still a heck of a lot less than what you had. So in other words, we saved them about almost $50,000 a year based off of their renewal plan. Okay, and that's for the plan that we just showed you that was, in most people's opinion, more competitive. Okay, so that is definitely how the Gap plan works. It's first dollar coverage. It's designed to help you with groups that have experienced renewal increases. And it, in just about every scenario, is really going to enhance your employee benefits plan. So you're basically giving employees better coverage than they had before. In a lot of cases, you're going to save money doing it. Okay. One question that everybody always asks is, what are you going to do in 2014 when you've got these minimum essential plans and everybody's throwing out a $2,000 deductible? Well, let's keep one thing in mind here. Let's assume you wanted to stay fully insured and not do a self-funded plan, which I would highly recommend that you use one of these self-funded plans. But let's just say that's not for you and you want to stay fully insured. Well, as you know, a lot of I know the Blues are up there. I know you've got Highmark over in Western PA, and I'm not sure, Eastern and Central, but let's just say their exchange plans in the under 50 market, they're going to that bronze plan is going to be $2,000 with a $6,400 total out of pocket. That's still a pretty high out of pocket plan. So we're going to come in there and say, hey, let's take that bronze plan, let's take that high out-of-pocket plan. By adding a Gap to that, we're going to turn it into something that's even better than a platinum plan. I call it the titanium or the plutonium plan. So you're going to be able to have a bronze plan and use a Gap plan to turn it into something that you can't even get in the exchange marketplace, which is going to be something that I can't wait for. I'm super excited about it. We're going to be discounting our rates and throwing in Gap plans left and right to turn these bronze plans into plutonium or titanium plans. And then, of course, the other thing that Susan mentioned is gapping these, what I call max-funded or smart-funded, gapping these products because the program that Susan was just telling you about will be able to still go to market with a $5,000 deductible as long as they meet that 60% rule. So even after 2014, Gap is going to be a tremendous opportunity, especially when you're looking at these self-funded products. So I know I went through that kind of fast, but I wanted to make sure we kept everybody's attention there. So if we need to go back and look at any of these slides, by all means. But that's the end of my little presentation. So if you want to go back or ask some questions, I'm open.
Thank you, Stephen. Let me see if there's any questions. Somebody's asking if the PowerPoint will be available. Yes, just send me an email. My email is Christy, it's Kristi, again, as in Sam, Christy S at urlinsgroup.com, and you all obviously got the invitation to the webinar, so you should have my email address, but I do have the presentations, and this is also being recorded, so if you're on the webinar, or even people who registered for the webinar and couldn't make it, you'll get a recording of this presentation in about 2 to 3 days. I think this is for Susan. Susan, you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. A question as to who the stop-loss carriers that are being used are and what is their AM Best rating?
The stop-loss carrier is Western Reserve Life. They're part of the Aegon group, and they're A+ rated.
Okay.
That's the one product that we're using right now.
And David is asking, how do we get in touch with the gentleman who spoke about gap plans? That would be you, Stephen. So do you want to give out your information?
You can if you have a general question, but we're going to be working with URL as well. So I'm actually headed up to Pennsylvania in a few weeks here. So we're going to be working with them. They're going to be our boots on the ground in Pennsylvania. But if you have a direct question for me, you're more than welcome to call me directly. I may have my information on here. Nope, it's not on there. Sorry. But I'll be happy to give that to you, Christy, and obviously Susan is very familiar with the gap. She's been doing them for 10 years or something. So she has questions. You can answer. She'll be able to answer your questions as well.
Okay. Next question: is the product available in all states?
The gap plan is not available in all states. Obviously, some of the hard ones are New York and New Jersey. We definitely have Pennsylvania available. We've got we've got Rhode Island. I'm trying to think of some other ones up there. We've got Michigan.
Ohio.
We've got Ohio.
How about Maryland?
Let me look. I don't think Maryland is approved. I'll have to double check, but off the top of my head, I don't think Maryland is approved.
Okay, and David, you have my information. You're asking about Maryland. I don't know if you're looking specifically for a group gap. I do have an individual gap. It's probably, after this presentation, probably not as good, but if somebody's looking for...
We have group gaps as well. So
okay.
It's just that we're doing Crescent because it's the best of the best. So
how about Texas?
But there are others.
Texas is definitely approved.
Okay. North Carolina, I'm just going to get all these.
North Carolina is approved, yes.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I've got a state eligibility list. I can send that to you that just shows all those states are approved in. That way you can just send that out.
Okay, next question is there any difference between the GAP plan and the medical bridge plans or the hospital indemnity plan?
100% difference. And the biggest difference between us is the fact that ours is just a bucket of money. It literally works just like, you know how you could have an FSA where you dump money into it at the beginning of the year, and you can pretty much use that FSA money for any medical expense that you have. That's pretty much how the GAP works. It's not limited. It doesn't pay you a certain amount. Whatever the bill is, the GAP plan pays it. So, you see, like Colonial had a plan out that paid you, $100 if you went to the ER. It paid you $500 if you were in the hospital one night. That's not how ours works. We just look at whatever your bill was, and that's what we pay. So we don't worry about paying you a certain amount, and you got to figure out if that's enough to cover your bill or not. We're just going to pay the bill when it comes in.
And also, a true GAP plan is guarantee issue and free exit covered from day one. That's very, very important.
It is.
Because the Colonial plan is not, indemnity plans are not, and the first person that gets sick is going to be the owner of the company's wife who's 8 months pregnant. If we had a case like that, she had the baby a month after, we would cover it. So,
well, Susan, let me give you a perfect example of that. And if, this is actually why gap plans are so powerful. We had a group that we just wrote a few months ago, and the owner's wife was giving birth, and their child had some serious complications. And the bill, they were on a high deductible plan. They were on a $5,000 deductible plan, but they had a $5,000 gap benefit to pay the in-hospital expenses. And so we paid, not only did we pay for the mother's hospital expenses, which were probably around $2,000, we paid for the $5,000 charge that came in for the child. It was some sort of cranial thing, and so we paid that. So we paid a $7,000 benefit to this one family, where they would have normally been out of pocket $7,000. And of course, they're customers for life now, because they experienced firsthand what that's like.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And something else is, I've been marketing the gap plans for 4 years. And for example, with the Crescent plan, they've never had a rate increase.
That's correct.
So with all that they do with the gap insurance, the rate has never gone up. I'm not saying it never will, but as of today, it has never gone up.
That's correct. And we don't anticipate it to. And the reason is because we're not subject to the catastrophic claims. Our exposure is capped at whatever your bucket of money is.
Right.
That kind of answers part of the next question, Susan, is how successful has the gap product been sold with self-funded programs with stop loss?
Well, I don't know about you, Susan, but it's phenomenal.
It is. It's phenomenal, and at the renewal time, there's never a question. It never has to be resold again. There's never a question that somebody doesn't want it.
Yep.
It's just sticks.
Yep.
And the only thing that we do is, if one year they had a $5,000 deductible and next year they have a $7,500, we may alter the plan design to meet that, but they're always happy with the plan. I have never lost a gap case.
Next question, looks like the only way you lose with gap plans is if you fall in that 14% of people that have claims in excess of $3,500, using your example where the individual then is responsible for the $1,500 deductible. Is that right? Absolutely.
So when I say that gap generally enhances the benefits, it enhances benefits for about 90% of people, just like that question just stated. And every group, you're going to have your scenario where you've got 10% of the population that is using all the benefits. They may be on dialysis or have some sort of serious illness, and that's going to happen. But our goal is to make sure that we structure the gap plan so that even if you've got somebody that's going to max out their benefits, they wouldn't be any worse off than they already were. So we want to make sure that if they had a $1,500 deductible exposure before on their current plan, that we're going to leave them no more than a $1,500 exposure on the gap plan. It'll be on the back end though.
Okay. What information would you need for a quote, and is there medical underwriting? And I think you said it was guaranteed issue. But
it's guaranteed issue, so there's no medical underwriting. And the best way, the key to gap, and I tell everybody this, you've got to learn how to build your model correctly. So in other words, you've got to know, you've got to be able to show them, here's what you currently have, here's what I'm proposing we go to, and here's why. And then if you can build that model, the way you do that is obviously the brokers, you guys will have access to their current plans and their renewal rates. And then what you really need to do is just submit to URL some alternate plan designs, or they can even shop them for you, and basically show you some $5,000 and $7,500 and $10,000 options, and show you how gap will work with that. We'll build the proposals for you and make it real easy.
Okay. Everybody's asking about commissions, but you can contact me about commission questions if you don't mind. Quite frankly, I don't know what we're getting paid yet, so I will have to let you. Yeah, maybe I should have asked that before we did the webinar.
It's 100%.
Hopefully, everybody will get paid.
Yeah.
It's all good commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent, as a matter of fact.
Okay, can the employer pay for the high deductible plan and offer the GAP plan as a voluntary benefit to employees?
You know, there are scenarios where we can do that, but for the majority of time, almost all the time, the employer wants to go ahead and contribute towards the GAP plan, so they don't have to contribute 100%. You know, they can just do 50 or 75. We encourage you to have the employer contribute because here's what happened in the past. The employer moved to a high deductible plan, and some of the employees didn't quite understand what the GAP was, so they did not buy it. And now all of a sudden, their neighbor has a full first dollar coverage, and they are going to think that they get it, and they go to the doctor, and all of a sudden they get stuck with a $3,000 bill, and they're come complaining. So we've run into some problems with that. But if it's an absolute necessity that it's voluntary, we'll work around that for you. But the majority of the time, it's going to be employer contribution.
Yeah, I always add the cost of the GAP to whether it's a traditional medical or a self-funded. I add the two of them together, and let's say it comes out to $400 a month. I find out from the employer what his contribution is going to be. It's probably going to be great because we're not going to charge any more than what they already had. So let's say he says, I'll pay $300. So then we say, okay, the employees are all going to pay $100 a month, and they take it or leave it. You know, there's no other option. They get both plans, and it's packaged together.
I think
Because
that's
there's
smart.
too much liability when you do it on a voluntary basis. Because people say, oh, nobody ever told me about this, and so on and so forth. And so I always, when I do it on a voluntary, I always get waivers from everybody that doesn't want it.
Okay. Can the GAP product be sold with any self-funded plan / stop-loss program, or is this only being offered with the stop-loss carrier Susan is using?
It can be sold with any plan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We encourage you to use the one that Susan is, but you can sell it. You can sell it fully insured. You can sell it with any stop-loss. You can sell it however you want it, as long as it's as long as it is an actual major medical plan. It's not like a limited medical or anything like that. Then yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Well, I think I've covered all the questions. Great webinar, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Those were some great questions.
Great questions. And I can tell it was a good presentation because there was a lot of questions. And I'll probably be getting more questions, and I know who to contact again if I don't know the answer. But
absolutely.
one more question came up, and then I will. Can the GAP plan be bundled with group life insurance?
Yeah, you can bundle it. We offer critical illness, accident, term life, AD&D is optional, and of course those are all with companion life, and you would just bundle those in, and we can send it all on one bill. So yes. Okay.
And one more. Does it matter if the claim is out of network?
No, we actually don't care. Whatever shows up on that EOB. So if they got to go out of network for some reason, and it shows that they owe, I don't know, $10,000, we will pay up to whatever amount of money they've got in their bucket. So it does not matter.
Okay. I think that's it. Again, this is recorded, so everybody will get it in 2 to 3 days. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Stephen.
All
and
right.
thank everybody on the line.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye.